You know, sometimes it's nice just to return to basics. Sometimes it's best to learn how to use what we got, rather than trying to convince others that some random drop or unlock they may or may not have is the best, rather than all the rest. And why not show that off with this game's most underrated stock weapon? How yinz doing? I'm Ian, and this is the TF2 How to Killstreak Guide to the Sniper's SMG. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. The SMG is the default secondary weapon for the sniper in Team Fortress 2, meaning no achievement unlocks, random drops, or even trading is required to use this weapon whatsoever. Only ownership of this free-to-play game will be required if you wish to use the weapon being discussed in this video. As for what it does, the SMG boasts a similar amount of DPS as the pistol the Scout and Engineer have in their starting inventory. This is because you have an extended magazine size to compensate for your lower damage per bullet. Why the damage per bullet is inferior on an SMG compared to a hand pistol is beyond me, but then again, this is a video game where using explosives is commonly used as a way to get to the second floor instead of far more logical methods like using the stairs or getting a ladder. So I think we can safely assume realism was not a factor in the design for anything in this game in any meaningful capacity. Due to the high spread of your bullets, it's best to use this weapon at close to medium range where your sniper rifle won't be as effective. This is because while it is technically possible to land headshots at point-blank range with a sniper rifle for 150 damage in one clean shot, the skill realistically required to pull that off consistently is so massive that the overwhelming majority of players will never be able to do it on their own. As a result, 9 times out of 10, the players you will see who can do this will be either hacking or a bot. And even for those players who can do this without using a cheating program whatsoever, it's still advisable to use the SMG because, in a game where you're just casually playing, do you really want to try to stress yourself out about headshotting someone at point-blank range when you could just pull out your other weapons to do their intended function? Because of this, the SMG will most commonly be used against opponents who are able to close the gap where most players won't be able to reliably land headshots with a quickscope, but also are smart enough to stay out of melee range with you. This will most commonly be in the form of spies and scouts who managed to close the gap but weren't able to kill you before you noticed they were there. However, don't rule out the possibility of soldiers and demo men using their explosives to close the gap faster than you can realize they were there as well. Although realistically, if you have enough time to notice they're there and pull out your SMG, they are probably going to be rather easy pickings since the damage they would have taken from blast jumping all the way up to you would probably have taken off enough health that you could quickly finish them off with this gun. Keep in mind, while your clip size is rather decently large with this gun, your damage per bullet is rather lackluster, meaning while this weapon has similar DPS to a pistol, and you have a much wider margin of error with your shots, it's gonna take longer to kill someone as a rule of thumb. This makes the SMG ideal for finishing off targets whom you don't have time to kill with your primary weapon. This is because it is entirely possible for several classes to survive the 150 damage headshots that you'll do from a quickscope. However, realistically speaking, unless this was done through granting them some sort of invulnerability such as a bonk atomic punch or uber charge, or the individual in question was a heavy, I can absolutely guarantee you that whoever survived that quickscope headshot will be at below 100 HP, meaning they can very quickly be gunned down with any weapon. This makes the SMG ideal for finishing off those lucky bastards who manage to survive seemingly impossible situations and happen to be at close to medium range of you now, thinking that they have an easy kill. However, if you think for an instant that you're going to be able to take on other classes in a head-on fight with this gun because SMGs are good in other FPS games like COD, I'm gonna have to tell you right now that your plans are gonna be crushed rather brutally. Still, the chip damage this thing pulls out can reliably finish off most foes whom you've landed a satisfying meat shot on. However, if you're serious about getting a kill streak with your secondary more directly, which given the title and thumbnail I gave this video seems like a reasonable assumption to make, I recommend using the Huntsman. This is because the Huntsman is the only primary weapon in a sniper's arsenal that actually encourages you to be anywhere other than the backline sniping off opponents from across the map. This will force you into situations where you'll be fighting opponents at optimal range for your SMG. And while this optimal range more or less overlaps with the Huntsman itself, bear in mind that the Huntsman requires you to pull out the bow before firing, something that in some cases, especially when fighting scouts, you won't be able to do more than once in a fight usually. However, there are other primaries where the SMG is almost completely required, like the Machina. You see, the Machina is a sniper rifle that requires you to fire whilst scoped in. You are not able to fire from the hip like with the other rifles. Additionally, the Machina also leaves behind tracer rounds, meaning the enemy team will very quickly realize where you're sniping from, meaning you'll have to constantly be adjusting where you're sniping people off from across the map at, unless of course you're perfectly okay with the entire enemy team knowing exactly where you are, which if you're going for a kill streak, you really shouldn't be. Because of this, the SMG is a must-consider weapon for anyone who likes to constantly change up their sniping perches in Team Fortress 2, but also has no confidence in your team to keep them safe whatsoever. This is also a useful weapon to have when sentries start to be a problem. This is because a fully charged body shot with your sniper rifle won't be able to kill a level 3 outright, but it will put it in a range where you could easily finish it off with your SMG, which will usually be much faster than it takes for you to build up another body shot to finish off the sentry with, which can be quite invaluable if the engineer is not already dead. Still, while the SMG is far from the most satisfying weapon in a sniper's arsenal, it is a reliable one, and is a weapon I strongly recommend for anyone who favors practicality in their loadouts over satisfaction and fun, which is probably why you don't see this weapon being used very often. All in all, I give the Sniper's SMG a Jack Black out of 10. They're not always the best option available, but they're always a reasonable and viable one to pick, and with the right setup and a decent plan, they can be amazing in the right hands. But that's going to be all for now. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, comment what you want to see me cover in the future. I've been Ian, you have been you, and this has been my TF2 How to Kill Streak Guide to the SMG. And stay tuned, the soldiers' banners are coming up next.